Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are doing the 4th of July episode, I guess. And I wanted to take a break from the normal news cycle since it's been kind of a shit show with stuff. And doing the educational myths. I'll get back to that next week. But this week, I wanted to actually review over everything that Donald Trump has done. And some of the things that you're going to be looking at and hearing about, you're going to think, wait a second, that was a long while ago. No, this is since January 20th, and I'm going to be going week by week of his administration so far, which has only been half a freaking year. And it's been 23 weeks, I think, is what it's amounted to. And the amount of crap that's gone on in those 23 weeks. And I'm not including everything. I'm not including his continuous tweets or truths or whatever the hell you want to call it. I'm not including a lot of the things that he has said and done. I am just kind of hitting the apex, the big thing, so to speak, of it. So, and I want you to keep this in mind as we're going along. And I'm not trying to do the Trump derangement syndrome or anything else like that. I'm not trying to run this into the ground like some of you folks may think. This is just an overview of what's happened within the first 6 months of his presidency right now. And it makes you wonder what's going to happen in the next 3.5 years of this and how we're going to look in that time. So let's start off week one, just right out of the gate, week one. He did 41 executive orders on that first week. 41. Now, he has done over 100 or close to 200 by now, but the 41, here's some of the things here. Number one, and I will be reading this out, so if my eyes look off to the side over here, please just bear with it. But ending the weaponization of the federal government. In other words, because they came after him, he doesn't feel that's fair, and so he wanted to end the weaponization, which he has signed this, but then turned around and done it himself. It's all about projection. And radical and wasteful DEI programs. Now, if you're against DEI, that means that you're either against diversity, equity, or inclusion. So I want you to sit there and think about, what are you against with this? None of this is wasteful. This is saying, look, treat people like human beings. And there's a lot of people that need to be trained for that. But by his accounts, that's wasteful. Defending women from gender ideology extremism and restoring biological truth to the federal government. In other words, only male and female distinctions. There can't be anything else. There is nothing else. There is only male and female. And that's kind of a spit in the face to people who don't identify as that. But he doesn't care. Creating DOGE, the Department of Governmental Efficiency, which is a fucking joke. Change the Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America, because you know that's really important. 90-day pause on all foreign aid to give them time to review it. Protecting the meaning and value of American citizenship. Deny citizenship for natural-born children. Now, this is something that was blocked by a federal district judge, went up to the Supreme Court, and they said, no, they can't do this. Now, here's the funny thing. If you're born in America, you're a naturalized citizen. It doesn't matter where your parents come from. But he's saying, no, you are not a naturalized citizen if you have immigrant parents that are not American, which that means him, since his mother was not American. That means that Barron and most of his children as well, because none of the mothers were actual citizens at the time that they gave birth. But he's not going to say that because, let's just be honest, they're white. Okay? He hit the pause for 75 days on a law banning TikTok and to provide a liability shield to business partners of the popular video app. In other words, at first he said, no, we need to get rid of this in the primaries. But then he came in and said, no, we don't need to do that. Now, have you heard anything about TikTok lately? Has it been, it was taken away for 24 hours and then came right back. So, there you go. But the big one that he did is that he rescinded 78 Biden executive orders that he said was horrible and destroyed the country. And I don't think any of them were that horrible. I really don't. This was just a petty maneuver by him to do this. Okay? That's week one. That's not all of the executive orders. I truncated it to the worst ones, in my opinion. Week one, all of these executive orders. He just went with it to where the media and the general public were left scrambling to find out what the fuck was going on. Week two, January 27th to February 2nd. Trump signs the Laken-Riley Act, making it the first new law enacted in his second administration. At the signing ceremony, President Trump states that he will order his administration to prepare Guantanamo Bay to detain migrants. Now, Guantanamo Bay is a military installation that was first used to detain migrants, illegal immigrants, but then was retrofitted to international people. And it should not be open. Since Obama's administration, there are many in the public that said we need to close that. That is a money sink. That is something that we don't need anymore or anything else like that. And the Laken-Riley Act was because an illegal immigrant murdered a white woman. Let's call it for what it is. Now, if a white person had killed a immigrant, there wouldn't have been any law signed on this. So just keep that in mind. Trump announces that federal employees who don't show up to work in person by February 6th will be terminated. This is for the remote workers and everything else. Then he holds a press conference on January 29th dealing with that mid-air collision in D.C. between the jet and the helicopter, and alleged that it was DEI policies that were to blame for that. He blamed DEI policies. He blamed Biden, which that becomes a trope for him that he does, is that he blames everybody else for his stuff. Week 3, 3rd through 9th of February. He calls for the permanent removal of Palestinian citizens from the Gaza Strip. He wants all of the people all Palestinians out of the Gaza Strip, period. Meddling in foreign affairs when he shouldn't. If he wants to put America first, then he needs to stop doing that shit. Then he signs his executive order entitled Keeping Men Out of Women's Sports. Federal funding will be removed from educational institutes that allow transgender women or girls to play on women's or girls' sports teams. Only men transitioning to women. But women transitioning to men in sports is perfectly fine. This is a misogynistic mindset that has come about with this. And you don't see any guys coming forward going, that used to be a woman and she beat me. We need to do this. No, it's only the women, and it's only because of one woman, one fucking swimmer that tied for 5th place with a transgender person that got her, I'm sorry, this is going to sound bad, but got her panties in a bunch and sat there and said, "This isn't fair. He shouldn't be allowed in here." So, on that. February 9th was designated as the Gulf of America Day, which he did as he flew over the Gulf of Mexico. I'm not calling it the Gulf of America, okay? You can refuse me, whatever. February, week 4, the 10th through the 16th of February, the AP is informed that by the White House, that it would be barred from accessing event in the Oval Office if it does not rename the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. Now, I want you to keep this in mind. The Associated Press is a neutral international news organization that most newspapers and magazines get news from that are non-biased. And he's going to sit there and say, "No, you're not allowed to report the news around me." Because he didn't get his way, Trump had his hissy fit. And this is one, I didn't do a lot of the other ones, but I did have to put this one in here. JFK Jr., or Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is sworn in as the Secretary of Health and Human Services. And it's never been good since. Okay? February 17th through the 24th, there's only one big thing that I wanted to put on here, and that's the Truth Social post. A social media post. Trump announces the appointment of a podcaster, Dan Bongino, as Deputy Director of the FBI. This is a guy who has no credentials, as has most of the people that Trump has appointed. But the only reason that he's gotten this post is because he has kissed Trump's taint, in my opinion. Week 6, February 25th to March 2nd, Trump announces a plan to implement a new gold card visa program that would be similar to a green card, but at a higher level of sophistication for the price of $5 million. Buy your way into the country. And he's turning it into a business, and he's it's stupid. Trump then posts an AI-generated video on Truth Social, which he loves to do, and then denies it and says, "Well, I didn't make that. I'm not the one who created it," but he's the one that keeps reposting this shit. Showing the future Gaza under U.S. occupation called Trump Gaza. This is the one where it had a big golden statue of him and Netanyahu sitting in lounge chairs and drinking a drink next to the pool, and it's just stupid. This is the same week that Trump holds a bilateral meeting with Volodymyr Zelensky from Ukraine. And during that meeting, Vance and Trump gang up on him and start treating him like shit in front of cameras and everything. And Zelensky was there to sign a treaty on rare earth mineral rights and stuff in Ukraine for continued help, or to pay off the debt, as Trump would put it. But he leaves not doing it. And this is only a month into it. I want you to realize this. This is like 6 weeks, a month and a half into his presidency, and all of this shit's gone down. Okay? Week 7, Senate confirms Linda McMahon as the Secretary of Education, and Trump immediately goes, "We are dismantling the Department of Education." Linda McMahon, here's a person who was one of the CEOs, CFOs, whatever you want to call it, of World Wrestling Entertainment. I don't know what qualification she has for this. I don't, just none. Next, pro-Palestinian student activist Mahmoud Khalil, a permanent resident of the United States, married to an American citizen, has a kid, is taken by ICE and detained in Louisiana. He just recently was freed, but then Trump is saying that he's going to look at deporting him anyway. They're going to bring him up on charges. Same with Abrego Garcia. That Abrego that they're just going to end up deporting him anyways. So Trump issues his last warning to Hamas to release all the remaining hostages held in Gaza. We can see how well that did. He wants to fashion himself as this tough guy and be this person that everybody has to listen to and follow or else. And nobody's listening to him. Everybody's laughing at him. They're treating him like a child with it. Week 8. We are now 2 months in. District Judge Jesse Furman rules that Mahmoud Khalil cannot be deported from the U.S. while the district court assesses the case. Now that's important there, just like I said. The Trump administration releases a draft list of 43 countries as part of a new travel ban. Now, here's the thing. When he tried to do it before, during COVID, everybody lost their shit. He slipped this fucking thing in. And people were being bombarded so much by so many other things that they looked at that and went, yeah, okay, we'll deal with that later. And they still haven't. Because of some bullshit mindset that all of these people are terrorists. Trump invokes the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 against members of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua within the United States. He is saying that, and this is not how this works. Okay? The Alien Enemies Act of 1798 was used because of the wars that were around, the Revolutionary War and everything else, saying, look, if you are an enemy combatant, you're deported. In other words, if you're English and you fought on the side of England, goodbye, you're going back to your home country. If you're, all of this. This is not a war. And that's what that deals with. U.S. District Judge James Boasberg blocks Trump's from invoking the Alien Enemies Act, but he still deports 261 alleged members of the gang and MS-13 gangs to El Salvador, despite a court order blocking such removals. And they went, oh, well, we can't do that, sorry. Oops. The flight was already there, which they can't call and say turn around. But they claimed that the deportees had already left U.S. soil by the time the court order was signed, which, of course, it was. Week 9, 17th through 23rd, after Trump calls for Boasberg to be impeached, Justice John Roberts actually rebukes Trump, saying that the calls for impeachment are not an appropriate response to disagreements with the court rulings. No, he just threatens everyone. Trump signs an executive order directing Secretary of Education McMahon to begin dismantling the Department of Education, which is... I still don't know where the hell that's at right now. Has she completely dismantled it? Has she shut everything down and turned off all of the programs that the Federal Department of Education were dealing with, such as help for special ed and people with learning disabilities and all of that? Who knows? Trump administration publishes a notice to end the legal status of over 500,000 migrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela who entered the U.S. under the CHNV program. Now, this is a thing saying, at first they said, please come in here, we need your help with work and stuff like that. But now he's like, yeah, we're done with you, get the hell out. Even though they've been living here for years and years with no problems. Other than the fake claims of, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Week 10, March 24th through 30th. Now, I want you to think of something here. I have been going for 20 minutes, and I'm only halfway through. Okay, if even that. Week 10th, March 24th through 30th. A group chat on Signal between several members of President Trump's cabinet is accidentally leaked when a journalist, Goldberg, is added to the group by Pete Hegseth. Hegseth is a fucking joke as the Secretary of Defense. He has fucked things up so many times it's unreal. Trump signs an executive order attempting to overhaul the electoral process, including clauses such as having all ballots be received by Election Day and requiring voters to provide proof of U.S. citizenship, which they already do. And this overhaul of the electoral process is something because he was afraid he was going to lose. He feels as though he won the 46 spot the second time he ran, and that it was the Electoral College that made it that he didn't win. Here's the thing you've got to realize. Trump has never won a popular vote, ever. And that's why he wants to get rid of the Electoral College. This is another proof of this. And then Trump hints at that he's considering an attempt to bypass the 22nd Amendment to seek a third presidential term. Now, I want you to realize this. He came out with this as a smoke and mirror. Because of all the shit with the immigrants and immigration and all of this other stuff, he's over here saying, no, look at this. I want to do a third term. There's a chance I could do that legally. There's not. But he is trying to make people look over here when he's doing shit over here. Okay? When he's doing crap that's really fucking with the world and with our country over here, but he says something so outrageous that that's what everybody looks at. Misdirection, it's what he does. Week 11, March 31st through April 6th, in what he calls Liberation Day, Trump announces a baseline 10% universal tariffs on all goods brought into the U.S. taking effect April 5th. He also announces a discounted reciprocal tariffs will take effect April 9th. Now, I'm not going into a lot of his tariff shit because that's where he got the term taco. Trump always chickens out because he refused to stick by what he says he's going to do. I'm going to do it. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm going to do it. Oh, no, I'm not. And that's the reason why at first the market was so volatile. The stock market, because it was like, oh shit, we better sell now before everything tanks because this orange buffoon is going to ruin the economy. Oh, wait, no, he's not. Okay, quick, buy up. So there you go. New York District Court Judge Dale Ho dismisses the criminal charges against New York City Mayor Eric Adams with prejudice. Judge Ho declined to order the dismissal without prejudice initially requested by the Department of Justice. Now, it ends up that he dismissed it because he got pressure from the DOJ, Department of Justice. And then Adams became the whipping boy of MAGA. As Holden sat there next to him on Fox and Friends or Fox in the Morning or whatever, and basically Holden sat there and said, yeah, if he doesn't do what we say, then we're just going to get rid of him. In other words, he's become a puppet in New York. So this is the kind of stuff that authoritarians and oligarchies do to get control, is threaten and cajole people with their careers, with their livelihoods. Week 12, April 7th through 13th, Trump announces on Truth Social that reciprocal tariffs above 10%, which had gone into effect that morning, would be paused for 90 days for all countries except China. China's minimum tariff will be raised to 145%, which is stupid. Oh, and that tariff thing, we all know that he tariffed a set of islands that had polar bears and penguins on it because, God forbid, they, don't match tariffs. It's fucking stupid. But again, here's the thing that he brings out on Truth Social, which is not an official thing there. Okay? Week 13, April 14th through 20th. Trump participates in Easter prayer service and dinner and did not burst in on fire. Vice President Vance visits the head of the Catholic Church, Pope Francis, in Rome one day before his death, which has become kind of a punchline. It's just coincidence with it. He wasn't in good health to begin with. But the fact is that both of these men seriously are lunatics. They are deranged. They have delusions of grandeur. And this is what happens when people that should never be in power are given that taste of power. It goes overboard. Week 14th, April 21st through 27th. Now, during that previous week, the 14th through the 20th, all the tariff shit was hitting. That's what it was. Week 14, Harvard sues the Trump administration over its threats to freeze billions of dollars in federal funding. The administration had cited student protest over Gaza, which had classified it as anti-Semitism, as a reason to pull the funds. Not free speech, but anti-Semitism. Again, smokescreen. The biggest thing that an authoritarian regime wants to do is control education. Why? Because if they can say what is taught, they can make future generations fall in line. I'm going to say it, and I know everybody is going to scream, but think Hitler Youth. Okay? That's what the Nazi Party did to kind of start controlling the younger members, in the hopes that as time went on, that they would follow in the footsteps of those that came before them. Now, during this time, during the funeral, Trump and Zelensky meet in Rome for the first time since that previous one and start trying to talk civilly. Now, here's the thing. Other than non-audio and non-video, other than a couple of pictures taken, it seemed to be a very quiet meeting. And that's one of the things that I have to look at there, is that when Trump is on camera, he acts like a complete ass. When he's not on camera, he doesn't act that way, which means everything he does is a calculated act. Week 15, April 28th through May 4th. We finally hit May. Trump holds a rally in Warren, Michigan to mark the first 100 days of his administration. Now, let me ask you a question. If you're president, why are you fucking holding rallies? This is less about statecraft as it is showmanship and screaming, everybody look at me. It supports the idea of narcissism. Trump issues an executive order requiring the Corporation for Public Broadcasting to end direct and indirect funding to NPR and PBS to the extent allowed by the law. In other words, he didn't like that there were liberal shows on there, and that Sesame Street was inclusive and diverse and equitable. That's what it amounts to. Then he proposes reopening Alcatraz for America's most ruthless and violent criminals, which that became the talk for like 4 news cycles for 4 days. Okay. Announces May 5th through 11th, the 16th week. Jesus. We still have 7 weeks to go after this, I believe. Announces a ceasefire deal with the Houthis, ending the U.S.-UK airstrikes in Yemen that began in January of 2024. Now, here's the thing. Great. But has that helped? Trump and Vance congratulate Robert Francis Prevost on being elected Pope Leo XIV. Trump says it was a surprise and a great honor. Like he had any fucking thing to do with it. And the fact is that Pope Leo does not like Trump or his policies. And Trump has basically said that he's a woke pope again, Week 17th, May 12th through 18th, Trump arrives at the King Khalid International Airport in Saudi Arabia and meets with Crown Saudi Prince Mohammed bin Salman. They sign a strategic economic partnership agreement addressing energy, defense, and other issues. Now, here's the kicker with that. He walked away with a personal deal of like two, I want to say $2 billion or 200 million, something like that, some exorbitant amount for Trump properties. Now, I want you to keep that in mind. Then he goes to the Hamad International Airport in Qatar and wants to pick up his new plane that the Qatar, or Qatar, however you want to pronounce it, regime wants to give him. Basically because they're tired of taking care of it and keep doing the upkeep on it. And it's going to cost, I want to say, like $100 million to retrofit and get all the defenses and everything up on this plane. And Trump says it's not for me, it's for America, with the understanding that it goes to his library once he's done being president, which means he's going to do it, have a personal use with it. It's stupid. This man can be bribed and cajoled and flattered into doing whatever other people want. Week 18th, May 19th through 26th. And here's the thing, sorry, I got to go back. Gifts like that go against the indemnity clause, go against the gifts that a president is allowed to get, because it becomes payoffs and it becomes bribery. And Trump can be bribed so much right now. All he wants is money. He's turned this into a money-making scheme. He doesn't give a shit about the people at all. Okay? Week 18th, the 19th through the 26th of May. We're almost to June. Trump signs the Take It Down Act into law, aimed for dealing with deep fakes on the internet. And usually dealing with pornographic and stuff like that, saying that it's a crime now. But I really think it's just dealing with images of him that he doesn't like, that he wants to be able to persecute. President Trump delivers the commencement address to the 2025 graduating class of the United States Military Academy, and they could care less about him. They really could. Every military thing that he has done becomes about him and how great and wonderful he is. If he would have served, I would have had more respect for him, but go figure, okay? Week 19, May 27th through June 1st. Yay, we're here. Trump calls Russian President Putin absolutely crazy for continuing assaults on Ukraine in the middle of peace negotiations. Putin's reply, Trump is emotional. Putin is not going to do what Trump says. It's just stupid. Trump administration freezes visa application and pauses foreign student enrollments at Harvard because there's a group that's standing up to him. He wants to go at them. Okay? So there you go. Week 2nd through 8th, week 20th. President Trump engages in online feud with Elon Musk over social media. Now, I want you to think about this. This has only been a month ago. Doesn't it feel like it's been years? One Big Beautiful Bill Act accusing Trump of concealing his association with Jeffrey Epstein, which we all know, we're just waiting for the truth to come out. Protest against immigration raids in the city of Los Angeles, with protesters clashing with local police and federal agents at the Metropolitan Detention Center and multiple federal buildings. Then Trump nationalizes the California National Guard and deploys 2,000 members to the protest. Newsom, California Governor Gavin Newsom, criticizes Trump's actions and requests his orders to be rescinded. Then Trump ups the game to deploy 200 U.S. Marines to have troops everywhere if the protests do not disperse. Now, those troops were never really used. They slept around on floors and were treated like shit, and I don't know if they're still there or not, but there was no actual violence happening with it. And everybody said, get federal troops out. Get the military out. Get the National Guard out. Everything is fine. Trump created and attended a military parade held in Washington, D.C. to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the Continental Army. This was a pathetic joke. It really was. He wanted this to show, look at me, I'm so tough. And instead of seeing the actual might, instead of having the grandeur and the spectacle of the Russian, China, and North Korean parades, to where there's thousands of troops marching by, it was pathetic. It really was. And some people said that he looked like he was about to cry. I don't believe that, but it was really pathetic. And the crowds were pathetic, even though he wants to say it was the biggest thing ever. Because the same day, on the 14th, I believe, or not the 14th, yeah, on the 14th, because this was week 21, sorry. This is June 9th through 15th. So this was week 21. The No King protests were held across the United States in opposition because they wanted to coincide it with Trump's birthday and his parade. So there you go with that. That was 3 weeks ago. Week 22, June 26th through the 22nd, Trump orders direct strikes on multiple nuclear sites in Iran and has to bring his little butt boys out to stand behind them so he looks spiffy. Week 23, Trump announces a ceasefire demands a ceasefire between Israel and Iran and the war. Trump has immediately cut off negotiations on import tariffs with Canada. He is furious about a Canadian tax and announced he will impose punitive tariffs on Canada within a week. They don't care. And now this week, the 30th, week 24, that big, beautiful bill has passed. I weep for the people that it's going to affect. I am angry with the way it's going to affect other people. I look at this and I see it as being a black mark on our society because it doesn't help people. It doesn't help our society. It punishes so many things, and it proves once again that these people in Washington are not doing what their constituents want them to do because nobody liked this. And the rhetoric behind it, and from the Senate doing all of the amendments and then saying, we'll let the House take care of it now. And then the House just immediately voted on it without actually looking into it. And all of these people that said that they would never vote on it in the House turned around and voted on it. And I waited to record this until I found out for sure. But yeah, it passed. It's going to go to his desk to be signed. And I worry that it's going to fuck a lot of people over. And it concerns me, and it should concern you and friends of yours and family of yours that might be on Medicaid or food stamps or have some type of government assistance that is happening with it. Or if this is the crux of his agenda, and this is the first 24 weeks, the first 6 months, I am concerned about what's going to be happening for the next 3.5 years and how this country is going to look. Some people may say that this is a great thing, but it raises the debt by $4 trillion, I believe. So what about next year? Is it going to be raised again and again and again? The truth is that we need actual fiscal conservatives in the Senate and the House of Representatives and Congress. People that are going to truly want to balance the budget and not inflate it so much because of special interests. Because that's all that it amounts to. Lisa Murkowski is a perfect example of this of, I represent the people of my state, that's it. So I got some concessions and so I voted on it. I don't answer to all of the rest of America, just my constituents. But the problem is when your constituents are part of a whole. That's like saying, I only represent this hand. Great, but if the rest of the body dies, so's the hand. And that's something to keep in mind. All right, folks, on that morbid note, I do want to say that if you do like the content that I'm putting out, you want to see more of it, please do hit the like and subscribe buttons down here somewhere. I don't know where it is. If there's something that you want me to do a deep dive on, please ask me. Put it in the comments. Please comment on this. That's one of the big things. I will answer comments, actual comments, to have you come in and talk to me about stuff. I will reply to them or I will address them on the next show. I do want messages. I do want your feedback. If you don't agree with me, that's fine. I'd rather have a discussion over why you don't agree with me, and that way people that watch this can step forward with an understanding of where people stand with stuff. Okay? And it's not just about my opinions and my viewpoint on things. If there's something that I've missed, if there's something that I've misquoted, call me out on it, okay? I'm human. I make mistakes. And I want to know about it, okay? So, happy 4th of July, folks. Until next time, as always, hit the like and subscribe button. Share this with other people. When I put it up on Facebook and stuff like that to take a look at, please share it. Share it with other people that you think might be interested, or even just share it in your feed, okay? That way other people can start seeing me and I can start getting more of a reach out there and I can get more of a response from folks, okay? This is not high production value. This is an old retired teacher that is saying what he feels and how he believes on stuff. And me taking in way too much news, the good and the bad. And hopefully at some point in time we will have good news. Now understand, I will criticize Democrats. They could be doing a lot more. They could be, attacking a lot more than what they are, but it's very weak and ineffectual. The Democrats need to have a better game plan on what they're doing and how they react. I mean, it's as simple as that. So, go figure. All right. I love you, folks. Have a good week. Have a safe holiday. And until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.